Okay, good day. In this video, we are going to look at the evidence of evolution, wato abin da yake tabbatar da kasancewar canji na halitta da abubuwa masu rai. So now, let's start with the basic definition of evolution. What is evolution? Evolution is a process through which species change over time. On Earth, we have billions of living organisms that lived, while still some are still surviving. So evolution is a process through which species change over time. Wato wata hanya ce da abubuwa masu rai suke iya canjawa da kuma canji na lokaci. Wato over time. Amma idan an ce over time, meaning that evolution yana ɗaukar lokaci mai tsawo. Ba wai yana faruwa ba ne at once. Environment kuma yana canjawa, sannan kuma halitta ta ɗan adam ko kuma ta abubuwa masu rai tana iya canjawa based on demand na environment, wato yanayin yadda environment ɗin wato muhallin me yake canjawa. Abin da yake ƙara tabbatar da evolution shine cikin sauƙi. Mun san akwai bacteria, za a ce an yi antibiotics. So bayan an yi antibiotics zuwa wani lokaci sai a ce ai yanzu baya aiki. Saboda bacteria sun zama resistant to wato ainihin wannan antibiotics din. So that is what we call evolution. Why do they actually become resistant? Is because they consider the antibiotics as a fragile to them. Ya zama musu kamar wani abu da yake mai illa a tattare da su. So wannan dalilin yasa sai su ga ai wannan abu ne wanda yake cutar da su, sai su wato ainihin canza tsarin halittar su ya zamana cewa wato ainihin wannan antibiotics ɗin ba zai kawo wata illa a tattare da su ba. Scientist na farko da ya fara gano wato ainihin antibiotics shine Alexander Fleming a shekara ta 1941. So the first scientist that discovered first antibiotics is Alexander Fleming in the year 1941. Then after 1944, the antibiotics which is discovered as penicillin is now become inactive because the bacteria become resistant to it. So this is an evidence of evolution. That is how evolution happens with time. So it's because actually bacteria, they have low generation time. Within short period of time, bacteria can divide into millions in number. So because they have lower generation time, zuwa ɗan ƙanƙanin lokaci, ita bacteria tana iya canjawa, samar da ire-irenta aƙalla guda miliyan ɗaya. So shi yasa evolution a irin waɗannan microorganisms din within few years yana iya faruwa. Amma kamar a mutane yana ɗaukar 100 of years ko kuma decades kafin evolution ya faru. So evolution wata hanya ce wanda ake samun abubuwa masu rai suke iya canjawa da tafiyar lokaci da kuma yanayin yadda environment ɗin yake canjawa. Kamar sometime nakan iya bada misali haka cikin sauƙi. Nake cewa yanzu idan da za mu duba yanayin wato tsari na halitta na mata da suke rayuwa a yanzu, sai mu duba shekara 20 ko 30 baya, za mu ga matan da suke rayuwa yanzu sun fi kyau, ba don komai ba saboda akwai fragile. So me wannan fragile din shine maza suna son mata kyawawa. So this is how evolution happened. So this change occurs through mechanisms such as natural selection and genetic drift, mutation and migration. Wato ainihin shi wannan evolution ɗin yana faruwa ne a sakamakon abubuwa kamar haka. Idan a ce akwai natural selection, genetic drift, ko a sami mutation ko kuma migration na abubuwa masu rai. Waɗannan abubuwan su ne nan suke kawo wato ainihin evolution. So we'll take one after the other. The natural selection, the genetic drift, mutation, and migration, and how they relate with evolution. In fact, in one of my previous videos, we discussed on how natural selection leads to evolution, and you can refer back to that video. So, bayan wannan, mene ake nufi da natural selection? I think I will discuss that in the next video. But menene mutation kuma migration? Because in this of my slides, there is no any slides that introduce on mutation and migration. So menene mutation? Idan a ce mutation shine nan ake nufi da su wato ainihin the change in nucleotide sequence in DNA. We know that we have DNA, and the DNA is made up of nucleotides. So whenever there is a change in that nucleotide, daga lokacin da a samu canjin nucleotide a jikin DNA, so ya zama an yi altering, wato an canja tsari na yadda DNA din yake. And these mutations, it can be positive, it may have advantage, it may be negative, that is, it may be deleterious, and sometimes it can be neutral. Sometimes idan an sami mutation yana iya sa a samu wani canji na tsarin halitta da zai sweeten da ɗan adam ko kuma abu mai rai ya sa shi ya iya rayuwa mai daɗi a environment ɗin da yake. And sometimes ana iya samun akasin haka. Idan an sami mutation ɗin sai ya kawo wani abu wanda yake is so negative, like for example sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease wato sikila mutation ne yake kawo shi. So kunga is negative at that point. Sannan migration, yanzu idan an samu wani halitta wanda yake rayuwa kamar misali a ce a Nigeria, like when you have an organism that live in Nigeria and it change environment, like for example from Nigeria to, let's say, Moscow or other part of the world, because their weather and our weather here are not the same, so there is a likelihood that human or that organisms may change. So understanding the evidence of evolution helps us grasp the history of life on Earth. So wato ainihin fahimtar evidence, wato ka tabbatar cewa ko kuma ka samu ainihin hakikatan na menene yake kawo wannan evolution, yana taimakawa mutum ya san history, wato labarin abubuwa masu rai a duniya. Kamar yanzu misali, the first living organisms that survive on Earth is prokaryotic organism, and it's about 3.9 billion years ago. About 3.9 billion years ago. That's the first time when the first living organisms survive on Earth. And of course, from evolution, you can even understand the evolution of the Earth. When was the Earth created, and how long does it take to be created? But I'm often wannan magana ne based on ilimin evolution. So sometimes there are things that we have to actually take them aside. We are just actually looking at the science. So it took about 15 billion years ago before the Earth is created. And according to radioactive tracer experiments, that is carbon dating, currently the Earth exists about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. Wato an ɗauki akalla shekara biliyan 15 ana halittar duniya. Sannan an ɗauki akalla shekara biliyan 4.5 zuwa biliyan 2 da kasantuwar ita duniya. So shi yasa sannan abu mai rai na farko shi kuma is about 3.9 billion years ago. Sannan halittar ɗan adam ta farko da ta fara kasancewa a duniya shine ya faru ne tsakanin shekara 200,000 zuwa shekara 400,000 a wannan range din. Shine a fara samun halittar ɗan adam a duniya. To amma as we explain, we'll see how this happened. Like for example, this is how evolution happened. You see, the origin of man started from monkey. But you see with time, because of the change in the environment, the monkey changed with time into the human that are lived on Earth now, or that are currently living on Earth. So see, this is how evolution happened. As the time goes on, species of living organisms change based on the environment. So that's why here you can see that the humans, the chronological changes in humans from monkey to human with time. So this is what happened, the change of species that occur over time. So this to show you how human evolved from monkey with time. And that is what you call evolution. So now, how is the natural selection lead to evolution? So in natural selection is a process in nature through which living organisms adapt and change in response to an environmental condition. So in natural selection is a phrase usually that happened due to a change in environment or change in environmental condition. So because the living organisms on Earth, they are all willing to survive. They are all want to survive. So when environment change, so those organisms will also change to suit the environment. Kamar yanda misali sai a ce okay to, like for example, let's say you have giraffe and they eat all leaves, and consider that, let's say, as those giraffe eat from the leaves will of course will be going higher and higher. So with time, according to Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, he stated that because those giraffe, they wanted to survive, so they keep strengthening their neck in order to be able to eat those leaves. And those that cannot actually strengthen their neck to meet up the height of the leaves, it means that they cannot eat. So as a result of that, those ones will die. And those that were able to change, adapt with the eating of the leaves, of course they will survive in the environment. So abinda natural selection yake nufi shine, idan a ce an samu abubuwa masu rai, sai ya zamana an samu canji na environment, kamar misali giraffe. Su halittu ne waɗanda suke cin ganye, so suna cin ganyen nan with time sai ganyen ya riƙa yin sama saboda sun gama cin na ƙasa. So saboda suna so su yi rayuwa environment ɗin, sai su riƙa wato ainihin tala wuyan, suna miƙa wuyansu sosai, to a haka ya sa wuyansu sai ya yi tsaho, har ya tsahon da zai iya kamo wannan ganyen su ci. Wannan shi yake nunawa wannan tsawon da ganyen yake is a fragile. So da yabo inda suka iya miƙar da wuyansa har su iya cin wannan ganyen za su iya rayuwa a wannan environment din. Waɗanda kuma suka kasa miƙar da wuyan nasu iya cin ganyen to za su mutu. So wannan shine abin da ake nufi da natural selection or survival of the fittest. But the most simplest examples da za mu iya ganewa shine kamar a ce antibiotics resistance. So in the case of antibiotics resistance, a new insecticide may be developed. So with time, some bacteria, they will sense that antibiotics are something that is danger. So they will try to change in order to protect themselves from the deleterious effects of the antibiotics. So as a result of that, what will happen? So those that was able to protect themselves on that antibiotics, they will survive. And they will pass that character to their young ones. And those that cannot actually protect themselves from the effects of antibiotics, they will die. So that is the survival of the fittest. So those that actually suit the environment, or those that change to suit the environment due to the exposure to new antibiotics, they will survive. And those that cannot change and protect themselves against the antibiotics, so they will die. That is what we call survival of the fittest. So what is the difference between natural selection and artificial selection? So a natural selection is a natural process, while at artificial selection, it is you on your own that you want to, that you are looking for a particular trait. So you can decide to interbreed or to breed your organisms to give you the desired species that you are interested. So that is what you call, that is the difference. The natural selection is a natural process, while the artificial selection is something that you can go in the lab to induce in the organisms in order to suit your desire as a scientist. So now, the next one is genetic traits. What is genetic traits? Genetic trait, it refers to the random fluctuation in allele frequencies within a population over time. So genetic traits usually occur by chance. It is most significant in small populations where random event can have a larger impact on the genetic makeup of the population. So me ake nufi da genetic trait? Shine is a random fluctuations in allele frequencies. Wato ana samun canji ne na allele, wato genes is random and usually occur by chance. Ba wai abu ne wanda yake faruwa irin wai over long period of time. Is something that happen by chance. So it's by probability. Like for example, let's look at this. Genetic drift is a change in allele frequency due to a chance event. So it's when there is a chance event, that is when genetic drift happened. So it might actually occur through reproduction. So you see the ratio now, look at these organisms. The ratio is 5:5. And after reproduction, or maybe through reproduction, or maybe through some event, so by chance, the frequency of the allele may change from 5:1. So this genetic drift, that is the random fluctuations in allele frequency within a population, can also lead to evolution. So it occurs by chance. It may be due to exposure to something. It may be due to genetic recombination. So that is a genetic drift. It occurs by chance. Shi yana faruwa ne ba tare da wai ko wani planin ba, ida through reproduction ne sai a samu wani genes din da wani genes din su haɗu sai zo ya fara samar da wata trait ta daban. So that is genetic drift. So now, let's look at the evidence of evolution. What are the evidence of evolution? Number one, we have fossils records. So what is fossils records? Fossils record is what left after the death and the decay of a particular organism. Shine abin da ya rage bayan wani abu mai rai ya mutu sannan ya lalace. Kamar yanzu misali idan mutum ya mutu, sai a ce da fatar jikinsa da naman jikinsa duk ya mutu, wasu ƙasusuwan ma an yi losing ɗinsu. So abin da ya rage bayan abu mai rai ya mutu ya kuma riɓe shi ake kira suna fossils record. So zai iya zama ko da ƙashi ne. So that's what we call fossils record. That is what left after the death and decay of a particular organism. So the fossils record provide a chronological account of life on Earth. So that is what happened. Because with fossils records, you can estimate how long a particular living organisms survive on Earth. Based on their locations, you can do that. So a transitional fossils show characteristics of both ancestral and descendant species. So with fossils, you can be able to characterize or to identify the ancestry and the common descent, that is descendant of a species. Idan ka samu ilimin fossils, daga nan zai iya gaya ma abubuwa masu rai ta ina ne aka fara samar da su, wato their common ancestor or common descent based on their anatomical structure. So these fossils provide a concrete evidence of gradual changes over millions of years. Like for example, fossils, plant and animals can serve as evidence of evolutions. Idan da za a samu wato ainihin fossils na plant da animals, so wannan fossils na plant da animals din suna ɗaya daga cikin abubuwan da suke tabbatar da kasantuwar evolution. Sannan their locations on Earth and how deep underground they are can tell us a lot about how the species lived and how long ago it was alive. Mostly, fossils records are found in either ice or in sedimentary rocks. So here, sedimentary rocks have different layers. So based on that layers, you can check the locations or the layers where a particular fossils record is. So you can use a carbon dating to estimate the layer. So based on that, it will give you an estimate of how long that organism survive. Wato su ainihin fossils record a wajen da ake samun su idan muna son mu samu yanzu haka, idan muna so mu samu fossils record, ana iya samun su a sedimentary rocks. Kuma a wajen da akwai kankara, yawanci anan ake samun su. Sannan idan ka san a inda suke, idan a sedimentary rocks ne saboda layers ne, kowace layer ana iya samun fossils record. So based on that, idan ka iya gane cewa okay, that the fossils is at layer this. So with the knowledge of your radioactivity, you can use carbon dating. Carbon dating, the word carbon dating, it means to estimate the age of something. So you can use a carbon from the rocks to estimate the age of the rock, and that will also give you an equal estimate of the fossils records. So scientists use fossils to find similarities between ancient species and the ones that are alive today. So scientists sun iya yin amfani da similarities da ake samu na ancient species da kuma waɗanda suke rayuwa yanzu. So we expect an ancestral species to share some traits with modern species. And that will give you an idea of how are they related? Do they come from the same ancestor? So the existence of fossils is an evidence that tells us that evolution occurred. Like for example, these fossils is for dinosaurs. So do you have dinosaurs now? No. Why? It's because they are not longer needed on Earth. So because of the natural selection, these dinosaurs, the environment is not actually suited for them to survive. So they now become extinct. They are not longer exist on Earth. Because the environment we are living now, it doesn't favor them. Wannan fa shi ake kira suna fossils record. So you can go to sedimentary rocks, or you can go to ice, get the fossils record. It will give you an estimate of how organisms live on Earth, and you can use the fossils based on the structure to compare them with the organisms that lived on Earth now. So that will give us an idea of the common ancestry relationship with the organisms that are living now. So this is one of the evidence of evolution. So the next thing is comparative anatomy. Comparative anatomy examines the similarities and differences in the structure of organisms. So in comparative anatomy, is a branch of anatomy that trying to show or that trying to demonstrate the similarities and differences that can be found in living organism. So wasu abubuwan masu rai zaka ga akwai similarities da suke da shi. So wannan similarities din da suke da shi based on the structure, it tells you that cewa they come from similar ancestors, meaning that they come from the same lineage. So homologous structures such as 4 limbs of mammal indicate common ancestry. So duk lokacin da aka homologous structures, wato structures ɗin da suke iri ɗaya, wannan yana gaya ma cewa wannan organisms ɗin suna da common ancestor, wato they come from same lineage. So analogous structures, while similar in functions, arises from So analogous structures, while similar in functions, arises from different evolutionary paths. So let's see now. You see, this is the human 4 limbs and the dogs and the bat. Look at these rates. Look at their 4 limbs. If you look at their 4 limbs, the bat here, the wily, if you look at them, they have similar structure. So according to comparative anatomy, this is to tell you that human, dog, bat, wily came from common ancestor. Wato sun zo daga the same ancestor. Saboda ai evolution yana faruwa ne sai species ya canja. So wannan yake nuna cewa to the human, mutum, da kare, da tsuntsaye, alamu ne yake nuna cewa sun fito ne daga abu guda. So that is comparative anatomy. So to compare the structures or anatomical structures across different species, so based on similarities, based on the homologous structures, that will tell you that they come from a common ancestor. So these 4 organisms here, based on their 4 limbs, is an indication that they come from a common ancestor. Wato sun fito daga abu ɗaya ne. So that is evolution. So now, molecular evidence, that is another evidence of evolution. So DNA sequencing allows scientists to compare genetic material across species. So DNA is actually a language of life. So we have signatures. So you can actually sequence some genes in humans or in a particular species of organism, then you compare them. So based on that comparison, it will tell you that whether the organisms share similarities. So similarities in genetic code suggest common ancestry and evolutionary relationships. Daga lokacin da aka samu similarities wato kamanceceniya na genetic codes, wannan yake nuna cewa lallai akwai dangantaka wato they come from common ancestry and evolutionary relationships. So shi yasa akwai abin da muke kira suna phylogenetic tree. That is one of the reasons why we do phylogenetic tree. So the major aim of doing phylogenetic tree is to tell you how distant, if are they coming from a common ancestor. If yes, so based on similarity, it will show you that okay, they come from a common ancestor. But at what distance? At what distance? That is the essence of one phylogenetic tree. So molecular evidence reinforces findings from Fossils record and comparative anatomy. So one of molecular evidence is it strengthening or it supports the findings from fossils record and comparative anatomy. So it means that it supports or it agrees with the findings from fossils record and comparative anatomy. So this is actually the DNA structure is made up of nucleotides, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. They are the nucleotides. So when it says DNA sequencing, it means to identify the arrangement of the nucleotide sequence in the DNA. The sequence of the nucleotide in the DNA molecule. So when you do the sequencing, then you plot or you generate phylogenetic tree. So from that phylogenetic tree, it will tell you whether the organisms, it will tell you the organisms that are related, that show evolutionary relationships and the common ancestry. So that is another evidence of evolution. Then biogeography. Biogeography studies the distributions of species across different geographical areas. So that is biogeography, the distribution of different species of organisms at different geographical areas. Like humans, we have different geographical locations. We are currently now, we are not from the same location. But history will show us that organisms, the first organisms that like human came from Africa and it migrated to another part of the world. We will see that. So biogeography is also another evidence of evolution. So isolated environment like island demonstrate unique evolutionary pathways. Like for example, if we have human now change to islands or migrate to island, with time, well, are not going to be the same. So that is isolated environments. So it's actually a unique, or it demonstrates a unique evolutionary pathways. So the presence of similar species on distant continents put the idea of common ancestry. Like for example, the scientific consensus is that the modern humans that we have, that is Homo sapiens, that is Mukin and we humans, originated in Africa within the first 200,000 years. Wato akalla sama da shekara 200 da suka wuce. Halittar mutum na farko wato mu kenan modern humans in fara samun ta ne a Africa. So the first organisms was found in Africa. Evolving from earlier hominin species like Homo erectus. So the modern humans, which is Homo sapiens, originated or it evolved from Homo erectus. And this Early humans then migrated out of Africa, eventually populating other continents, gradually replacing or interbreeding with other archaic humans like Neanderthals. And that what led to the different humans that we have on Earth. So you see from here, ladies and gentlemen, you'll understand that the first humans is originated from Africa. And that humans migrated out of Africa and eventually populating other continents. And before that, some of the modern humans are interbreeding with Neanderthals. That is what now lead to different humans. The populations of humans in China, Japan, Africa, and other European countries, we are not the same because of these differences in geographical areas. So this is to tell you an evidence of evolution. Are we the same with populations of China? Their skin and our skin are not the same. So that is actually to show you is an evidence of evolution. So the geographical distributions of a living organisms, especially in isolated environment, it's demonstrated a unique evolutionary pathways. So a change of organism from one environment to another, it might lead to the change of that particular species. So then the next one is embryology. So what is embryology? Embryological development reveals similarities among different species in early stages. What does that mean? Most of the species of living organisms at their early stage, especially embryonic stages, they show many similarities. So let's see now. You see, in embryological development, we will see that cewa yawancin abubuwa masu rai at their early stages, especially during embryonic development, za ku ga cewa they are very similar. They are very similar. But kuma they are different species, but they are very similar. So the structures that appear during embryonic development can indicate shared ancestry. So wannan similarities ɗin wato waɗannan structures ɗin da ake sama at embryonic development. Wannan yana nuna cewa fa kenan waɗannan organisms ɗin sun zo daga the same ancestor kenan ba. Because they have similar structure. So because of that similarity in that structure, it tells you that those organisms, they have similar structures. So because of that similar structures, it means that they descendant from the same origin. They came from the same origin. So comparative embryology highlights evolutionary relationships that might not be visible in adults. Like for example, let's see. Look at the humans here. The early embryo. You see in the fish there is gill slits. And in humans there are also gill slits. Look at it. If you check all of them here, from fish, salamander, tortoise, chicken, and humans, they all have gill slits at their early stages. Look at it at the mid stages. So you see, as time goes on, their structures are changing. But if you look at the early embryonic stage, they have similarities. Look at them, they are very similar. The humans, the chicken, the tortoise, the salamander, and fish, all of them, they are similar if you look at them. Dukansu iri ɗaya ne. So wannan shi yake gaya ma cewa because of this similarity, waɗannan organisms we are all came from the same origin. So there are some features that we can see them at the early embryonic stages, but in adult we cannot see them. So this tells you that because of this similarity, we came from a common ancestor. So direct observation. Evolution can be observed directly in organisms with short life cycles like bacteria. Idan kana so ka ga ainihin evolution, because su bacteria suna da short life cycle, you can use bacteria ka ga menene ainihin evolution. Like instances of antibiotic resistance in bacteria showcase rapid evolutionary change. Musamman yadda the way organisms actually, especially bacteria, become resistant to some antibiotics is a rapid evolutionary change. So it's showcasing a rapid evolutionary change. So observing changes in species in real time helps validate the mechanisms of evolution. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope you'll enjoy this of my video. Please follow, subscribe, and join my YouTube community. Thank you, bye bye, and we'll meet in the next video.